Hi guys, and welcome to part 23 of Skyrim Mod Sanctuary. And before we start today, I would just like to apologise for my voice. I've got a slight sore throat, nothing major, but it's making my voice a tiny bit hoarse, so apologies for that. So, with that in mind, let's get on with the first mod we're going to look at, and that is the Dwarven Mechanical Equipment mod. Now, if you remember my last video, that was about a Dwarven airship, and I basically ran around like an excited little schoolboy talking about how brilliant it was, and I'm pretty much going to do the same about this. This mod is absolutely brilliant. This mod adds a couple of things. The first thing it adds are a couple of blades that strap to your forearms, and they sort of animate out when you draw your weapons, and then when you put your weapons away, they sort of retract back into the forearms, which is absolutely superb. But there is also a couple of shields, and the first shield, it's made up of lots of different blades almost, and they rotate out into a small shield when you draw your weapon. So it's really out of the way when it's folded up. It's absolutely brilliant. But there's another one that's called the spider shield, I think, and it's even smaller. It's more the size of a buckler shield, and as you can see, it sort of rotates and folds up really out of the way. It's absolutely brilliant. The animations are really quite detailed, very intricate, and they really do sort of suit the game. They look very similar to the other Dwarven machinery in the game. So you get a feeling that these items are perfectly reasonable. They feel quite in lore. And there are even black versions that use a little bit of ebony, so they've got slightly higher statistics, and they look very nice indeed, especially if you have that sort of stealthy assassin type character. So they actually look really nice indeed. Now, you actually craft all of these items, and you actually only get the recipes after you do one of the vanilla quests that takes you into a Dwarven ruin. So it really is very, very well done indeed. And as of the latest edition, you can actually upgrade the equipment, which is very nice. There are a couple of things you should know. The first thing is the left hand blade is purely ornamental. It doesn't actually do anything at the moment. I'm hoping he's going to make it like basically usable as dual wielding, but at the moment it's basically as if it's not there. So you can equip a shield, another weapon, or even a spell whilst having the left blade. But it actually looks pretty cool when you use it with one of the Dwarven shields or with a spell, for example. So just be aware of that at the moment. The second thing is that not all of the kill move animations suit this type of blade. Some of them look a little off. I'm hoping as well that the mod author will be able to restrict certain of the kill move shots so that only the ones that suit this blade come into play. But overall, this mod is absolutely superb. It's really well done. The animations are brilliant. The detail on the models is great, and it's just such a fun mod to use. And if you use something like the Sicarius armor, which I covered in a previous video, you can obviously see the Assassin's Creed influence there. So absolutely loving it. Absolutely loving it. Now, the next mod I'm going to cover is a mod called Moonpath, and this is the first quest mod that I've covered. And this is a really sort of good sign for Skyrim that we're beginning to get quest mods now. So if you've done everything, you've done every quest, all the factions, and you're looking for new things to do, they're beginning to come out. And this one is a great one to try. Now, this mod actually starts at a hideout, so it gives you a kind of player home, which is not really a home, it's an entire area just for yourself. Well, there's a few other NPCs there, but you get to use everything, and it's really quite nice actually. It's even got merchants. And very early on, you get a quest giver who sends you off on a quest, and you basically wander through a few areas and you find more quest givers, and they send you to more areas and you kill lots of things, etc. I don't want to give too much away, but the general area feels like you're underground almost, but you're not. It's like a sort of a hidden valley where there's just walls of rock and you can just about see the sky above you. But it's also a jungle feeling to it. It's very atmospheric, actually. And for some reason, I just kept expecting to see Indiana Jones come running out of the trees or something. It's definitely got that kind of feel to it. It feels a little different to Skyrim. You definitely feel like you've entered some lost world, and you're no longer in this frozen waste. So you should be aware of that. I mean, you definitely feel like you're in a jungle. Now, there's voice acting for most of the NPCs, I believe, and there are some unusual creatures, some custom creatures, and even custom NPCs, including a really huge Khajiit type NPC, which was kind of interesting, almost a giant Khajiit. So if you've done everything else and you're looking for more to do, you should definitely check this mod out. I'm hoping that these guys actually continue to make this type of mod, maybe some more quest mods, because this is going to be one of the great things about being able to mod your game, being able to keep extending it with more and more quests. Now, the next mod is called Dovahkiin Relaxes Too. And what it does is it gives you a spell or a power that when you activate it, as you can see, you start doing something, some relaxing activity, basically. Drinking, reading a book. There are all sorts of different animations that basically make you look like you're doing something other than hitting people in the face with sharp objects. Now, if you're the sort of person who's saying things like, well, why would I want to do that? What does it give me? Then this mod is definitely not for you. This mod does not give you anything. It doesn't give you bonuses. It in no way affects the game in the slightest. This is a mod for people who like to roleplay, people who like the sort of immersive experience, or perhaps just people who want to make screenshots, etc. It's actually pretty good for people like me who make videos, because I can have the hero doing some slightly more interesting things. Now, the last mod I'm going to talk about today is Water, and it stands for Water and Terrain Enhancement Redux. Now, this is actually an extension of the realistic water textures and terrain mod, which I covered in a previous video and have been using ever since. And basically, it's sort of the next version. It has some new features and some changes in enhancement. One of the enhancements is, in actual fact, you get wet when you enter the water. So as you can see, you step out of the water and you're dripping. And you don't notice it that much, but it actually does add to the immersion and the realism. So that's a really nice little touch. But there is another reason for me covering this mod, and it is basically because of something he wrote in the information section. And he basically was explaining how the earlier version of this mod left things behind in the save game. And it's not a problem with the mod itself, it was a problem with Bethesda's save game mechanic. Now, the upshot of this is that the mod author is basically saying that if you update from the previous mod to this new one midway through a game on an existing save that used realistic water textures, you may get some small glitches, even if you do a clean save trick. Even if you know how to do that and you do it, you may still get glitches. And he basically saying, please don't post about the problems if this happens. It's kind of, you've been warned, and there's probably not a lot he can do about this. And he's saying really the only way to guarantee there won't be any problems is to start a new game. So what I'm actually going to do is suggest that if you are happy with realistic water textures, stick with that mod until you are ready to start a new save game. But this actually goes to a larger point, and that point is, don't be a pathological updater. And that's my new term for people who update without thinking, people who update. Now, I do it myself. I have done this myself, where I see an update and I just basically update immediately to the latest version. And I've stopped doing it in Skyrim, partly because of these save problems, but also because I realize it's not actually a good idea. Basically, sometimes you don't actually need to update. Sometimes you don't even want to update. You should always go along to the mod page and read the details. Now, most mod authors add a changelog, and you can check the changelog by clicking on the version here. If you click on this number, you will see a list of all the changes for version 1.2, and usually this occurs on most mods. So if I go along to my own mod Dynavision and click the version, you can see the changelog for all the different versions. So you can decide if you need to update. Now, this goes for just about any mod, actually. It's not just mods that do special things or have scripts. So, for example, Jace's Swords did an update where if you updated mid-game, you lost all the weapons. So if you'd wandered into a dungeon and had only one of these swords and you updated the mod, you suddenly had no weapons. So you should always check. Now, having said that, to install the mods I mentioned in this video, it's pretty easy. The Dwarven mechanical equipment is just a single file, download with Manager. The Water mod has two versions, a high-res and a medium-res. Now, I find the medium-res one to be almost as good as the high-res one. I'm only using 1920 by 1080 resolution. However, if you've got the system to run the high-res one, feel free to try it. They both look absolutely brilliant. The Moonpath mod comes as a single file, download with Manager, and again, install. As does the Dovahkiin Relaxes. Oh, it looks like there's a pre-release, a preview version coming out. Well, I've done the latest version, not the preview version. Now, the Water mod, when you activate it, gives you some options. For example, if you wish to get wet, which I do, I think that's kind of cool. But you can disable that if you don't want it. You can also have reduced splashing or the vanilla splashing. I like the reduced one. I think it looks more realistic. And that was about it. Pretty simple. And that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to click the like button. I always appreciate that. My plan is to get at least 2 videos done in the coming week, and I hope you guys join me for those. But until then, have fun.